It's 3:35 on my watch, so I'm going to go ahead and convene us in tallest order. If I look like I'm on a merry-go-round, it's because the camera is here and you all are around here, and so rather than having the camera record my back for the next 5 minutes, I'll be trying to move around this part of my back as people are here. My name is Bobby Allen, and I teach at the University of Charrette now for the last 39 years. And I am the faculty lead of the Community History Workshop at UNC Chapel Hill. And on behalf of Elijah Gaddis here, who's the co-founder of CHW, and Nicole Castellella, who's been the project manager for our work in Washington, and our other CHW colleagues who are sprinkled amongst you, I want to welcome you all, those of you who are in person, and we have folks who are joining us by Zoom, who will introduce themselves shortly. And we're calling this a short conversation that is framed by a single question, and that is, how might the rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of iconic historical sites, such as Rocky Mountain Mills, how might their rehabilitation and adaptive reuse catalyze community history and archiving initiatives? The Community History Workshop was founded in 2016, and we work with local communities to recover and preserve and share the memories, the stories, and the materials that reflect the multi-layered histories of our place. By helping to connect past to present, we believe that communities envision a more just, inclusive, and democratic future. This gathering is a part of CHW's project, Rocky Mountain Mills from Adaptive Reuse to Public Engagement, and is funded by a grant from the National Historical Publication and Records Commission. And as you'll see here, a video recording of our conversation this afternoon will become a part of Digital Rocky Mountain Mills, which is a curated digital collection of records that document the history of cotton mills, this one in particular, and their place in the region. And it will also be published as a part of a project summary white paper on digital community histories and adaptive reuse. So this is the first of two gatherings in Rocky Mountain Mills today. Later this evening, we will reconvene in the space just below us here for a workshop on African American genealogy. It was organized by Nicole, and this workshop is also supported by our grant from the National Historical Publication and Records Commission. I want to thank Evan Chavez and the staff here at Rocky Mountain Mills for hosting and supporting both of these events. Evan reached out to me, I've forgotten how long ago it was, 2 years or more, to start a conversation about how the newly fledged CHW and Rocky Mountain Mills can partner to recover the long and rich history of this mill and the experience of some of the folks who worked here prior to the mill's closure in 1996. This conversation led to gifts from Capital Broadcasting, which enabled us to involve graduate and undergraduate students in our work here to conduct archival research on the history of the mill and the site of the mill, and to document the integration of the mill workforce in the 1960s. This work, in turn, really provided us with the predicate for our proposal to the National Historic Publications and Records Commission. And this is the most appropriate venue that I can imagine for this kind of conversation about community history and the use of a site. For millennia before European settlement, the falls formed by a rocky mound made this a special place for native peoples. Established in 1918, Rocky Mountain Mills is the second oldest and longest operating textile mill in North Carolina.
1818.
What did I say? 1918? Thank you. You make your easy correct. Thanks to John Mevin, who was the last president of the mill, the papers of the mill are held by the North Carolina, by the Southern Historical Collection in UNC. For most of its 200-year history, the mill was associated with the Battle family, a family also closely connected to the history of UNC. The Battle family papers are held by the Southern Historical Collection. slaves owned by the Battle family operated the mill for 3 decades. And the workshop this evening will highlight the extraordinary genealogical research on the Battle family slaves and their descendants conducted by one of those descendants who was here with us, Reed. And she is herself now part of the Southern Historical Collection's community-driven archives project, about which we will reflect. The reopening of the mill, which we can see all around us, and it surprises me every time I walk into this space, is a particularly appropriate moment in the history of this place to hold a larger conversation about adaptive reuse in community history. It sets in relation to each other 2 epochs of the history of this place, of this state, and of this region. The establishment of the mill anticipates by about 60 years the industrialization and urbanization of North Carolina. Textile manufacturing was, of course, at the heart of the social and economic transformation of the state. Between the 1880s and the early 20th century, this, among other mills, drew tens of thousands of white farmers, sharecroppers, and tenant farmers off the land and into towns and industry. This epoch of industrialization and urbanization lasts as it applies to textiles at least for about a century. By the 1980s, key industries, textiles, furniture, tobacco, have declined, have moved offshore, and the downtowns that they gave birth to are decimated by the relocation of retail into shopping malls. So in many towns, we look around the post-industrial landscape of closed and abandoned landmarks of the industrial age. We also have towns and cities that are trying, on one hand, to build, to reinvent themselves, and on the other, to reclaim a connection to the built environment that is here. So this is obviously where adaptive reuse comes in. Today's conversation is about a particular kind of adaptive reuse, the rehabilitation and repurposing of iconic historical sites. Sites that have played a significant role in the history of the community for a significant period of time. These sites matter to many. These are the sites whose preservation matters not just for architectural reasons, because of how they were used, what happened here and there, what their loss of purpose. Cotton mills are obviously contenders for iconic historical status, but there are other kinds of sites that are represented at this meeting. The American Tobacco Campus in Durham stands out in any conversation about adaptive reuse in the state or indeed in the country. We'll hear about the repurposing of an iconic school in Westport, South Carolina as a new city hall, the repurposing of commercial buildings in Danville, Virginia as a boutique hotel. These projects have been undertaken by commercial developers, but nonprofits and government entities are also involved with adaptive reuse. We're working with Triangle Land Conservancy to recover the history of a 200-acre farm that will become the largest green space destination in Wake. 400 acres. We're also working on the history of Northgate Dick Hospital in Raleigh, the state's first and principal insane asylum, the site which will be developed as a signature of the second part of our framing question connects adaptive reuse with opportunities for community history and archiving. And our goal here is to put on the table a range of projects and initiatives that have been or might be done in association with adaptive reuse. Highlighting our work here in Rocky Mount and in Gaston. Our colleague in the Southern Historical Collection, Chamber Powell, yes, will introduce you to incredible strategies for community archiving that are being developed under a major grant from the Redevelopment. Community history and archiving initiatives are opportunities for institutional cooperation and collaboration. And potential partners are local community groups and cultural heritage organizations. In particular, art and history museums and libraries. We have representatives of both here. Jason Blucher, who at our end of things is on the left-hand corner, is the director of the Gaston County Museum of Art and History. And I saw Tracy Thompson come in, and she's right there, who is the local history librarian and genealogist for the Braswell Memorial Library. And the concluding portion of our charrette will open up our discussion to the questions of the value that community history and archiving has to all of the stakeholders represented here, and the sustainability of community history So now, I want to pause and give you a chance to introduce yourselves very briefly and let us know what brings you here, with whom you're affiliated, and what brings you here. We'll pause and let's start.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I prefer the camera here, so they're all close to you. I'm with Bosley. I'm with UNC Chapel Hill. I'm the general manager of the Digital Innovation Lab. I collaborate with the Community History Workshop as their sort of resident technologist. So I make all the bugs work, I make all the gear work, and I occasionally am involved in discussions about trying to interface story with architecture, or architecture media, and of course, sort of like museums and stuff.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bolus. I'm a senior fellow with the Community Histories Workshop. My background is in art museums, public art, and directed the arts for the city of Raleigh. So thinking about this work in terms of community engagement.
My name is Melanie Arnold, known as Paris Arnold, fifth generation woodworker, and this is universal to me. I'm Tracy Thompson. I'm a local history genealogy librarian in Bradford Memorial Library in Camp Street, and of course, this is very important to our community, and I'll have a lot of those.
I'm Bernita Brady. I have been on to work on the community history workshop with the African American genealogy, and I am part of the Southern Historical Collections in the Urban Archives Project, and so the project documentary and oral history.
Hi, my name is Shaker Powell. I'm the African American Collections and Outreach Archivist of Southern Historical Collection, and I'm currently serving as the project director of our Redevelopment Community Urban Archives project.
My name is Todd Allen. I'm the Associate Director at the Center for Urban and Regional Studies at UNC Chapel Hill. The Community Histories Workshop falls under the umbrella of the center. We provide some administrative supports to the Community Histories Workshop, and I'm fascinated with the work that they're doing. And in a past life, I was involved in the floodplain buyout program here at Rocky Mount when I worked in the Division of Emergency Management. So I'm interested in what's happening in this part of the state as well.
Hi, I'm Eddie Bell, founding architect of Bell Architecture. We're the architects for Rocky Mountain Mill and for Revolution Mill, featured in today's meeting, and 78 other historic tax credit adaptive renovations.
I'm Annie Bragg. I'm the regional director for Preservation North Carolina's Eastern Office, so I live in Berkeley County's Eastern 95.
David Sarah, project architect for the Rocky Mills with
My name is Sarah Almond. I am with the Community Histories Workshop. I tend to work on a few, primarily on the Dorothy Indus project, the restoration of that hospital, very large military problem. I recently graduated from the Sills program at UNC in library science and the public history program at NC State. So coming at it from an archival and historical perspective.
I'm Ina Dixon. I'm a PhD student in American Studies at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm all but dissertation, and I'm writing my dissertation on a nearby somewhat textile community, a school field, which is Danville, Virginia. It's a mill village of Dan River Mills, about 2 hours north of here. And it's a very rare story in Virginia, and so I've drawn a lot on North Carolina stories, just like what's happening right now, especially as Danville now looks to revitalize its mill village as well as its other former mill structures.
My name is Diane Charrette. I'm a recent NC graduate. Currently working with the Tribal Land Conservancy as their community engagement.
I'm George Jones. I'm the City Conservation Manager at the Tribal Land Conservancy, and primarily focused food farm production program also focuses in on natural resources and cultural heritage, as well as one of our preserves. So it's one of about 8 preserves and tri-land preserves and loans. We have over 22,000 acres in 6 counties of the triangle.
I'm Abby Covington Chavez, working here with Rocky Mountain Mills. Wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid. I think real estate is the way that I want to make communities, so I need to go.
I don't know if I need to get out from behind this pole or not. So my name is Rob Shafford. I am a lecturer in U.S. history at Carolina. My interests are in U.S. history, American South, environmental history, also world history, and I am also working with Bobby at the Community Histories Workshop as a coordinator on the project with TLC to research some of the history of Walnut Hill Reserve and a larger community there. And I think that's all I should say for now.
Hi, I'm Nicole Puffball, the project coordinator for the Rocky Mountain Mills project at CHW. You all heard from me. My background is in public history and archaeology, and what I'm really interested in the human story of a site instead of just its built history, and that's what really drew me to CHW and Rocky Mountain
Hi, I'm Elijah Gaddis. I'm an assistant professor of public history at Auburn University, which is very far away from here. And I'm also a co-founder and I forget my title, something else with the Community Histories Workshop. So I have something to do, my hands in virtually all these projects, and this is what I teach as well. So thanks for here, and thanks all of you for being here.
Thank you, Ron, and that's everybody. And I just said once again, oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, that's everyone here, but the folks who are zooming in, let me ask you to introduce yourself. Jason, go ahead and start.
I'm Jason Luker. I'm the director at the Gaston County Museum here in Gaston County. And I spent a tremendous amount of time doing research on the textile industry and its effect on the community.
Jack?
I'm Jack Kaiser, and I am a retired planning and special projects director for the city of Gastonia. And in that role, I worked about 15 years with developers and Preservation North Carolina to facilitate the adaptive reuse of the Lorray Mill. And I now work part-time for Preservation North Carolina as project manager for the revitalization of the surrounding mill village that contains about 450 homes.
Go again.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My name's Emma Haney. I work for Self-Help. I've worked with them for about 6 years now. I'm project manager on our Revolution Mill project here in Greensboro, which I can talk about a little bit more later on. I am a graduate of the DCRP program at UNC Chapel Hill, and I'm fortunate enough to work on one of these great adaptive reuse projects that we all love so much.
Hey,
Please go ahead.
Marcia Parrott here with Redevelopment. Keep going?
Yes, please.
Marcia Parrott, Associate Director with the Development Finance Initiative, which is the program of the UNC School of Government. We work with municipalities to help them attract real estate or private investment to real estate projects that are community economic development priorities for the city, many of which are adaptive reuse. I assist with community engagement across all of DFI projects and also have a colleague here with me.
Hi, this is Eric Thomas. Marcia mentioned the role of DFI. I've been heavily involved in the Broughton Hospital redevelopment planning process in Morganton, and know you all well and look forward to hearing what you have to say today.
Thank you. Is that it from our Zoomies? Thank you all so much for participating. I want to try to cover the arc of this connection, if that's not too strange a way of metaphors, between the decision the developer makes to undertake an adaptive reuse of the historical structure and what the process is going on there. Through to the decision of folks to link these projects with community history and archive, and wind up with a discussion at the end of our time with what is the value of this nexus? The nexus between community history and archiving, adaptive reuse. And what is the value proposition for all of the stakeholders? Because I think in order for that nexus to be a rich one, there has to be something in it for everyone to participate. The work is too hard otherwise. So we wind up talking about value and about sustainability. How particular projects and initiatives might have a long-lasting impact in the communities in which these occur. So I want to turn to Devin, and I'd like her to tell the brief story of how this place came to be.
Okay, so probably better for me to do this than Michael, because Michael will go on for a lot longer. So Capital Broadcasting owns American Tobacco in Durham, and in 2007 they were on a high of things going great, seeing it sort of take off, and literally he and his father were out here for an event. They were brought out to the mills to tour, and it was chain link fence, boarded up windows, you know what it looked like. And they went on the river, saw the river, and decided this could be that they were going to buy it, and it was going to come something. That was the process. The end. I mean, they joke about like they did a market study, or they could have done a market study, but why bother? The market sucked. There was no market study to be done. It was not a good idea to buy the mill. But because of sort of their high American tobacco and this sense of just the majestic nature of the building and the Tar River and its impact on East North Carolina, that was basically the bottom line decision to buy the mill. However, they are a family-owned company, and so they can make decisions like that. It doesn't have to be a long process in order to decide to buy the mill. It sat until 2013. So from 2007 to 2013, it remained boarded up, chain link fence. There were 2 people that worked here that made sure that there was no vandalizing, that the roof was intact, and that windows stayed boarded up for the most part. And then in 2013, this included the village too. So it was everything, most of what you see around you plus the village. In 2013, Michael was driving back from a homeowners association meeting here where he was getting beat up by the few homeowners who lived in the village about why we weren't doing anything, when were they going to do something, and just sitting there deteriorating, blah, 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 blah. Called me, said, we've got to do something, it's time to get going. I think up to that point there had been this sense of like, we're going to wait for some big tenant to come along and knock on our door, and then we're going to get going. And with the reality that wasn't going to be the case, that it was going to be more about what we were going to start to sort of catalyze interest. That changed the whole perspective of how to start the project. So when I came on board, it was from the perspective of we are going to try a bunch of different stuff because we can, and we're going to figure out what
we started with the idea of craft beer as an incubator, and it did drive people to the mills, and there was a lot of like questions, you know, like what is this even project that's going on in the mills, and you know, they've got all this beer. Is that really for my grandkids? You know, there's all kinds of questions that I would get, but reality is what we were starting to see was community. So you see people come and hang out on the lawn. Nothing was happening down here, but at Koi Pond and at TBC West, you would see folks hanging out on the lawn, kids running around, throwing frisbee, kicking the soccer ball, having a good time, which is sort of why we decided that it was time to get started. It was not a scientific or even a financial process that went into this. It was very much about the impact that we have.
Just a little other chronological perspective, what Evan just told everyone. The mill closed in '95, and in October of '96, Preservation North Carolina and the State Historic Preservation Office and myself and a few other architects hosted a design charrette here in the building that is now TAP 1918 restaurant. And it was to stimulate thought and enthusiasm over what the next life of the mill could be. And it did that. But it was stimulating interest and enthusiasm in a community that was still suffering in many ways. Because of all the floods, and because of businesses such as Hardee's that would vacate, RBC Bank that would vacate. But humorous spot, I took them out on the first day of the charrette. I drove up in my old Chevrolet truck and walked in the Bible house. John Bevan, who was the president of the mill at that time, and closed, was sitting at the desk with his head down. I introduced myself and said, well, how have you been? He looked up with his wry humor and said, I just shut down the family mill that started in 1818. How the hell do you think I've been? And then he laughed, and we started joking around about it and had a good discussion about just how the last year had been. And for many years thereafter, 96 into the early 2000s, John and his Uncle Tom Battle and I and a few others were trying to figure out what could go in the mill, what would be the next best use. And every time we came back to, like Evan said, for a while we just sit and wait and say, well, Big Ten will show up, and it just never does. So you have to go find a big tenant, and like Evan said, you have to go find an industry that you can bring to the mill and let it be the incubator that starts it. So after John and Tom knew it wasn't working, the local businessman bought the mill, and he was going to put his businesses in it. And we got started renovating it for his office use, and two of his businesses were going into bankruptcy. So that was the end of that. And then it sat dormant, and we started with the charrette here in October of '96. I also had the good fortune of being selected by Capital Broadcasting to do American Tobacco. We started designing American Tobacco in October of '99, just 3 years later. And look where American Tobacco is today. You know, in '07, when Jim Whitman and Capital Broadcasting decided to purchase this, American Tobacco was a handful of tenants. It was moving along real well. It happened that fast. And they are community oriented. They saw, like Edward said, they saw the Tar River and what it means to this whole region. They saw the deal and what it meant to Rocky Mountain, this area. And then, like all of us, sometimes foolishly fell in love with it. And then after the romance wore off a little bit, one was going, I'm going to live in dollars. But it's one that felt like it had to happen. And like Edward said, as soon as we got Hill Village homes under renovation, we got a few of the primary structures here on site renovated and fully activated, such as Koi Pond, TBC, and TAP 1918. It started to look like the mill was going back live. And when you get whole crowds of families and children out here and music playing and works. It was envisioned as part of a large 8-block area, Durham. Coming back around to see that hub of the wheel for that 8-block area. Now, as we all know, there were other people that tried American Tobacco, and it was too big an alligator to grab hold of most everybody.
I think one of the things about that is that for, there have to be two types of visionaries. One is the person who buys, the company or person or leader who buys something like this. They can say, you know, I just know, don't ask me how I know, but I just know this is the right thing. It'll be the right thing. It's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen the next 5 years. We're talking 10, 20 years down the road where we want to be. So there's that person. And then there have to be the anchor tenants or those entities that decide to sort of take a risk on the front end. And in our case, it was involved, or Melanie works. So they were looking at other spaces outside of Rocky Mount. They were unable to find one location to sort of fit their needs that helped them sort of move forward in the industry. They were growing, and their CEO came out here when there was chain link fence and barbed wire, and there were no windows open. Stumbled around lighting everywhere, and left and said, we are no longer going to be looking outside of Rocky Mount. 85% of our employee base is here. We don't want to leave, but we just haven't. Now we found a place. He had a vision that I would say some of the staff probably did not have the time to move out here. And the same for American Tobacco, Glaxo, McKinney, and some of the anchor tenants that first round of American Tobacco were bringing their employees from a very safe or stable or comfortable place to the unknown of bricked up walls or no walls. And so it takes, I think, both ends of that leader who's willing to sort of see beyond the tomorrow and really see much further into the future to know that a decision like this is going to really be the right one for their company, as well as that entity that owns the building that can also sort of see beyond the current, know that in the future it's the right direction.
Just like Duke University was one of those that shared the vision in American Tobacco. We have a National Community College down here. Once we started throwing the term beer around.
Right.
and now we're teaching their brewing curriculum here on campus.
I want to bring Emma in here, Lisa, and with self-help, and to get you to talk a little bit about self-help's approach to this. I noticed in what you were saying about yourselves as an organization that community revitalization and downtown revitalization are very much a part of the ethos at self-help as well.
Yeah, and that's true. It's a huge pillar of the kind of work that we engage with. But interestingly enough, that's not exactly the way we came to be involved at Revolution Mill. And so I'll kind of lay out the facts, and then I think Eddie will have some similarly funny anecdotes to share about Rev Mill. But we first became involved with this project as a lender, and so to some previous developers who had taken the project on and worked on it for a number of years, and then just with the recession and any number of issues, they were unable to finish the project. So rather than kind of losing out on our investment and walking away, Marnique's our CEO, he's from Greensboro. We've done other projects in Greensboro. It's a community, obviously, it's really important to us and to the state. And this project, it just, talking about sort of iconic properties for a community. Revolution Mill is that for Greensboro in a way. So we decided that instead of taking, a $6 million loss on our investment and walking, that we would instead take on the project and spend about $93 million over the last 6 years to develop the project. So we acquired this mill campus in late 2012. And after we acquired it, we thought, well, we should figure out what to do with it now. And so we spent a while just doing stabilization work and really trying to really digest the property and figure out what we should do with it. And we didn't necessarily have, so we didn't even approach this the way that normal real estate projects normally are approached. we also didn't have a main anchor tenant like y'all were just talking about. We didn't have a main institution that had approached us to partner. We didn't have a big user from the onset. And actually, we didn't get a big user until sort of this year. It kind of came at the tail end for us, which is still nice. But the way that we really approached our project was to take all of the 500,000 square feet that makes up the first phase we've been working on and disassemble it and really figure out what could go where and what could coexist, what would work really well next to each other, in complementary uses, but also to bring a diverse set of people out to campus. And so we ended up developing apartments and office space and art studios, art galleries, a history gallery. We have event venues, meeting spaces, but we also have sort of public public venues, public event areas, greenway trails. We do a significant amount of public programming. So we specifically brought on events staff to do that kind of thing. And so it's a combination of 100 different things that really made the project work in the end. And so that's what we've been doing out here for about 6 years.
I want to bring, sorry, go ahead. I'm hearing myself. I want to bring Marcia, Charrette, and Eric into the conversation. They're here representing the Development Finance Initiative, which is, if not unique, then a very special public university program designed to attract private investment for what they call transformative property development projects. Eric and Marcia, can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you all have done in adaptive reuse projects? Marcia, are you there?
Can you say that question again?
Sure. Marcia Charrette and Eric Thomas are here representing the Development Finance Initiative at UNC, who work with municipalities and attracting private developers to community projects. We've talked with them about several of the projects that they're working on or have worked on, including Morganton in the site of the Broughton Hospital there. I just wanted to get them into the conversation as well. We may be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, by the way, it's hard for some of us, Jason and I have been chatting, to hear you all at the main site. And I guess the things on the yellow cords are the microphones. And if you could speak towards the microphones, perhaps instead of looking down at notes or whatever when you're speaking, it's a little bit easy. We might be getting more of the audio. I'm getting about 50%, understanding about 50% of what's being said. But I think your question was how to attract developers.
Well, it was directed.
And
excuse me, just one second, Jack. I want to get back to you, but I did want to see if we could bring in Marcia Charrette and Eric Thomas. But apparently we're having some difficulty there. But let me do make a segue to the preservation aspect of these projects. And Maggie Green is here representing Preservation North Carolina. We worked with them with the Lori project going back to 2014. Jack, of course, is involved with that project. Maggie, it's hard to condense all the stuff that you all do into just a kind of soundbite, but give us some sense of where you all step into these kind of projects, what functions you serve, what you bring to these projects in the state of North Carolina.
So our first mill project was in Eaton Cotton Hill. And initially our approach to it was, as an organization, we can acquire these larger properties or smaller properties that are in need of full restoration and rehabilitation. We place protective covenants on them that run with the deed in perpetuity to make sure that the integrity of the buildings are retained. But certainly sort of have the philosophy that an empty building is of no use and unless there are people in it, the building is not serving its highest and best use. In Eatonton, initially what we did was one model property. We realized pretty quickly that we were going to need to at least complete one of the properties in Eatonton, and this was back in 1996. So we did a model house, and the rest of our properties in Eatonton were then sold to homeowners for renovation and restoration. At the time, I think the properties in Mill Village and Eatonton were selling somewhere around $15,000 or $20,000 each. Properties in Eatonton, Mill Village are now selling between $235,000 to $300,000. So we were able to sort of turn that market there on those small homes. Ideally, looking at the river and being able to bring in a lot of retirees, a lot of outside influence. And then with the mill itself, that was developed into condos. So that was sort of our first mill project. And then we moved over and worked on the Glencoe mills over in Burlington. That was our next mill project. And there we sort of got a little bit more into doing some of the property development ourselves, starting to realize that we needed to show people how it could be done. And then moving on to Luray, which is our third one, which Jack can talk about. Jack, how many houses were we up to now? 7 or 8 that we've...
Well, we have had involvement in about 14 houses, and the ones that we have totally rehabilitated ourselves, you're looking at 4 houses. I'm sorry, 5, and but so much of what's been accomplished has been from Preservation, North Carolina, in terms of the mill houses, stepping in there first and taking the risk and investing the money in what needed to be done to properly restore the homes. In other words, taking the initial risk and setting the model. And now just last week, I mean, when we started this project, before rehab, houses were anywhere from a donation or $10,000 a piece up to the max of maybe $25,000 a piece before rehab. And the houses that we've been selling now are selling at around 140, 150. We've had, but what's remarkable is that we've had other private rehabbers come in there and rehab houses for resale to homeowners, and the latest just went on the market last week for 200. Now, whether they sell it for this or not, we'll see, at $224,000. So we we can easily document a double in the before rehab values and a double or more than double in after rehab values over a 3.5-year period. So those are kind of the effects that we're having with respect to the single family home, the mill house market in the neighborhood. And we're seeing people wanting lots, and actually in one case, one guy built a home, 1,600 square feet, and got on a vacant lot in the village, got every penny he asked for it at $200,000. And, you know, if I had 10 mill houses on my hands to sell, I could sell them all in a month, easy, without a doubt. I got people begging me for houses. And of course, they're out there on their own in the marketplace. So what we have done is really stimulated the market. By the way, Bobby, I'm hearing you 1,000% better now.
Well, I think the other interesting thing, looking at particularly those 3 mill projects and also Rocky Mountain Mills mill project, in our first 2, we started with the houses themselves rather than the mill. And that created a community around the larger vacant structure that then would feed into what was done in those mills. And so I think some of the success was in creating that community of people living there around the larger structure first. And then, of course, our organization, in addition to taking donations from corporations that are able to do it as a tax write write-off. Also, there is a general statute on the books that allows us to take properties directly from a city or a municipality or a public sector, where typically you would have to go through the upset bid process, which just allows us to ensure that it's going into the hands of someone who's going to do preservation in a sensitive, adaptive reuse that respects both the building, but also the fact that the building needs to serve current use.
Now, the Rayville, Reservation of North Carolina took control of Rayville to protect it and to keep it available for that renovation. So when they did that, it wasn't necessarily the plan that the Mill Village would come first. It was hoping for that big savior client or developer to come along. And we had years of board of directors meetings in Reservation of North Carolina where we would have to vote as a group as to whether to keep on adding to what we had put into maintaining and being a proper caretaking babysitter of a 600,000 square foot mill. Keep it ready.
Well, and I can also say that during the period in which Preservation of North Carolina was preserving the Roy Mill from being destroyed, it was by far not a unanimous view in the community that this is something that the community wanted or needed. So having grown up near that mill village and my grandparents having worked in it, it was a political battle in some cases to keep that going. And we have, in Melody, we have someone here who has a family connection to this place, and a long one.
A fifth generation. So we came roughly 1890. My great-grandfather, 1901. He worked here until he passed in 1945. He's actually electrocuted here in the mill. He lived about 9 months in the homeless home in the past. And when he did, my grandfather, who at the time was not working at the mill, he didn't want to work at the mill. He was kind of over the whole building. My great-grandmother was pregnant, and she could not come work at the mill. So at the time you had to live in the mill village, you had to have somebody that worked in the mill. So he came home to work in the mill and worked here for 60 years.
60 years?
60 years. So he was here at the end in the mill, and he was in the guard shack, making sure that we were working and stuff like that. My dad worked here in the 70s, my mom worked here, my family worked here, and then my oldest sister got to work here right before the mill closed in high school. So it was really great. We all talked about coming here. It was really important to me to keep that legacy alive. And I'll add that my son is now working in nutrition at the mill. So it goes deep, and I think what you're all talking about, why it's important to me, is I think it's important to see this legacy continue. Not just because my grandparents worked here, this is such a great place. It's a great place in history, and you can talk about the different characters of people like my grandparents and work and the value that they had, and then also look around. And this isn't something you can find in just a big city. It's not going to be in New York City or something like that. This is how we can bring people back down to what our families were and what the generations were from. I'm happy to see it. And I hope to see it continue on.
Well, it must be an odd experience walking in this building every day.
It is very odd some days, and I remember, it's like little flashes of remembering my grandparents on second shift. So I remember looking up bringing my granddad dinner, coming to guard shack, and coming downstairs, and just the way it looked. And I remember my little brother riding his tricycle when it was empty, just riding around when they were kind of closing down and seeing that. And Michael Forrester did the first Bill 5K. My dad, who passed last year, was able to come out and ring the bell. And I had kind of ready to know kind of some words, and one thing I talked about a lot was that my grandparents didn't get to see it turn into what it is now, but I think that they just truly love it. And I think they'd laugh at us all, like, what are you doing spending money at that mill or whatever, but my granddad liked his beer, he liked to drink a beer day, and the doctor would say how much was a beer in the 40s. But to see it kind of turn into that, I think he would really value that, and just to see it turn into something that he can use as a workplace as well. Very important to us. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I want to bring into the conversation folks who are working on the community history and archiving side of things. And I've asked them if they would give their elevator talk. so much that I want to get on the table as examples of the kind of community history and archiving work that has been done here in other places so that we can fold that into the conversation. And I think it's appropriate we start with Nicole for her to give us a rundown of the work the Community History Workshop has been doing in Rocky Mountain really over almost 2 years now.
What we wanted to do with Rocky Mount Mills was to kind of rectify, I suppose you could say, what American Tobacco did not do, and that's to emphasize the human story at the mill, like mill employees over time. And what we want to do it that would involve diverse communities, so involving teachers, youth, descendant communities, African Americans, Caucasians, even Native Americans, if possible. And to do that, we collected oral histories, and then those oral histories form the basis for K-12 lesson plans, and we collaborated with Carolina K-12 on that. We also collaborated with the Southern Historical Collection to develop the slave genealogies of a number of battle slaves. Ideally, those that worked at the mill, but we couldn't identify them, so we just identified general slaves. And we also wrote historical narratives of the mill, and which is probably the most comprehensive one that has been done so far. So like it's a long history of the site and the short history as well. And we have about 7 narratives. So yeah, it's a multimodal, multidisciplinary project that involves a number of different university units and other collaborators and partners as well, the Braswell Library.
Our work has been mainly with industrial sites as iconic sites, but in our Walnut Hill project with the Tribal Land Conservancy, this is the first time that we have tried to do the material history of an agricultural site. And George and Rob, if you two could talk together briefly about Tribal Land Conservancy as the impetus, the entity that's taking this on, that has the vision that we were talking about to make these investments in this case extraordinary property. And Rob will talk just a few minutes about the work that he's doing.
Please, George, after you.
No, so for many of you, they can see the boards that were up here. Walnut Hill actually sits in an area called March Creek, which is located in Wake County, and it's basically the Umstead Park of the East. It's representative of about 8,000 acres in totality. But given the history of this area, back in, I guess, the late 1700s, 18 Mile was land granted by King George, about 1,200 acres. And he married into the family of the Williamson family. And for about 13 generations, this family mushroomed that 1,200 acres into over 10,000 acres of property. We were just fortunate in 2013 to acquire, through Sarah and Bailey Williamson, about 406 acres that backs up to the Neuse River. And so the Mountains to Sea Trail project connects to the Walnut Hill Greenway. And we have roughly about 12.5 miles of multi-use track that we'll be developing infrastructure in for people to access. The thing that's unique about this particular property was the family had farmed on this land for over 7 generations, cotton, tobacco, barley. They ran all kinds of livestock, predominantly beef cattle. And so what we wanted to do was take an approach where we could create a sustainable agriculture partnership with the county. So we're working with the school system, the soil and water conservation community, the cooperative extension, and we're focused in on next generation farmers using this property to support and provide local resource food production to the community, specifically in the area that we just talked about. The other relationship that we have is this particular location was in a community that was unincorporated called Shotwell. And Shotwell was basically made up of families that integrated into the Williamson family, either through enslavement, then sharecropping, then landowners, or they integrated as landowners. And so it's a unique advantage for us to sort of share their story. So this is the very first time TLC has gotten involved in kind of a three-pronged approach, which is we know how to do preserves, we know how to create trail systems, we know how to do habitat protection and safeguarding clean water. We have no clue how to create a community. And so our focus in this project was how do we tell this cultural heritage story? How do we preserve this farm community? How do we encourage that in a sustainable perspective? So engaging with Rob and with the Community Histories Workshop, we're bringing these families together to sort of tell their story, their relationship with this particular experience. And although we want to make sure that we show positive homage to the contribution of the family, the Williamson family, not all of the historical stories are going to highlight that positive heritage. So this is a unique opportunity for TLC. And we're so fortunate to work with Rob and the Community Histories Workshop, Elijah and the rest of the team.
Well, as George, as you mentioned, there is a very rich history that we're really just starting to dig into and learn more about. And going back to the colonial period, but of course before that as well, Native American lives and interactions with that landscape before the colonial period is going to be really fascinating to try to recover and tell more of that story as well. I was just thinking about maybe 4 quick aspects of the work we're doing so far working with TLC, and then a couple of points of interest that we have come across or things that we have learned so far. The key things that we're doing so far are, one of them is collecting, I don't like that term, connecting with folks and recording in-depth oral histories, doing an initial set of oral histories with people who have connections to the farm itself, Walnut Hill Farm, and people who have connections to the larger community of Shotwell that George described. Another piece is getting a sense of what kinds of archives, what kind of materials are out there in institutions like North Carolina State Archives and other places, and at UNC and NC State as well, working to get a sense of what is out there in archive materials that can help tell the story of Walnut Hill and the Shotwell community. A related piece is trying to get a better sense of individual collections, what folks have in their family papers, their documents, photographs that relate to Walnut Hill and Shotwell, help tell some of that history. A fourth piece is starting to think about ideas, recommendations that we would connect with TLC about for some next steps and maybe some ideas for how going into next year TLC might think about sharing some of this history as we develop and uncover it. Then a couple of thoughts about some of the things that have come up so far. I think one of them is a really interesting interesting evolving relationship with Raleigh. For many generations, Raleigh was always pretty close, but there was still a very strong sense of you got to Shotwell, you're in the country, where there's a real urban-rural separation or distinction. I think that's one interesting thing. Another is that George mentioned Alonzo Mile. He has a very rich collection of our state archives that includes material that are going to help to tell the story of the enslaved people there to a certain degree. The last thing I would say is that it might be interesting to think about, Bob, you mentioned post-industrial context with things like Rocky Mills. It may be that what we're here is a post-agricultural landscape, or at least post-cotton, post-tobacco. To what extent is that the kind of context we're looking at?
Thanks, Rob.
Just real quick, sure. We are renovating because we are located in the Oak Grove Historical District. So there's several structures, a church, Oak Grove Chapel, the Pack House, the Cotton Gin. So we're currently doing restoration of those projects.
Thank you, George. Chafer Powell is here, and she represents a project that was not initiated by an adaptive reuse project, but I think really shows us the future of community history and community archiving. So I very much wanted her to talk a little bit about that project so that we can feed in some of those great ideas into this larger discussion.
Maybe closer to the microphone and not behind the pole. So yeah, thank you, Bobby, for inviting me here. I think it's been really interesting to hear more about the evolution of Rocky Mount Mills. I've been working for UMC for about 5 years, but not as close to this project. I've learned a lot in the last hour or so. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing and then kind of how I see some of the connections based on what you've all shared so far. So the Southern Historical Collection is a traditional archive founded in 1930, over almost 80 years old. We collect the papers of important Southerners, we bring things to Chapel Hill, and since I've started, and people before me have thought about how extractive that can be. And what does it mean to choose whose history matters, history from the great person? What kinds of barriers do we put in front of people by making them use the reading room, coming to Chapel Hill, which is possible in part. So how can we empower people to start telling their own stories and collect histories in ways that make sense to them? And so my background is in community archives in Los Angeles, and being here, it's not as big of a tradition, but I think the ethos is here as well. And in 2017, we applied to the Andrew Mellon Foundation for a grant. We have 4 pilot partners, and we are doing archives in ways that make sense to them. So I won't go into all the details, but some of the outcomes include establishing community archives, spaces independent of libraries to manage collections. Some of the tactics involve building websites where you can make the connections between people, like digital humanities projects, in terms of activating the archive. So it's not just dusty papers in a library, but it's records that you can use to tell your stories and impact your communities. Other products include tools for cultural heritage. We work with the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance, which I think is the most relevant project in terms of them being places, wanting to bring people to them. What can they use? And for me, it really comes into a lot of intangible cultural heritage, which is kind of a contrast to what we've been talking about here. And so I think those things can work together, but if there is a difference in the outcomes, but the tactics are similar. So we do oral histories, we talk about archives, we try to get those stories out there. But it's, intangible, it's the stories, it's the family history. So that's just a little bit about what we're doing. But I think it's interesting, like if you don't have investors, if you're not embedded in a community to Raleigh, how can you get those resources to do this kind of work? And so that's why I hope we'll talk about a little bit more, what happens. But this is what everybody wants. But when you're in the Mississippi Delta, or you're in someplace like Huntsville with all the factors, environmental racism that puts you there, it's hard to bring people there to do that work. So I'll just stop there. But archives, Black history, those are the kinds of things that bring me to this work.
Thank you. And talking about resources and local resources, our experience is that local cultural heritage organizations are absolutely key partners in doing this kind of work. And we have museums and libraries. And we have Tracy Thompson, a steadfast partner in our work since it began. And Jason Luker, I began working with his predecessor and involved in Gaston County Museum of Art and History, the Glory Project, very early on. Of course, we also have Jerry Bolus here, who for many years was director of the Active Art Museum, has other museum directing experience. So I want to throw out two questions to the three of you for very necessarily brief answers. One is, what can local cultural heritage organizations such as yours bring to community history and archiving initiatives? And then the second question is the other side of that, and that is, what can these initiatives do for you in the way of helping to build capacity and setting missions for your organization? Simple questions, I know. Jason, you want to take the first crack at it?
Oh, sure. Why not? I would say, to answer the first question, what can a museum do for the projects? I think one thing it could do is bring recognition to the projects, to not only look at the structures itself, but the historical context of those structures and the effect it's had on the community. If you look at here in Gaston County, most notably with Luray, the effect it had on the development of Gastonia, its role in the textile mills and their power that they had over the community, how they divided the community, both in labor and also in segregation. These are things I would think that the institutes like myself would be the ones that would kind of broach out and talk about those topics and bring those to light as the areas are being redeveloped and being reused. I think the thing that what I would look for from development groups and from historic preservation organizations is priority. What I find myself, and I found with a lot of museums, is that we are overwhelmed with the sheer volume of stuff that we have not been talking about, and we'll get lost in the shuffle, and we won't know. We're really good about exhibit or project or installation, and then we kind of move on to the next thing. And with the preservation, it's a long-lasting program, such again with Luray. As you mentioned, developing of the mill, the 600,000 square foot structure, has only been the beginning. It's now redeveloping the entire neighborhood. And what I have found, if I focus on that, we're looking at an early part of the African-American community. High Springs was first developed in the 1900s in connection to Luray Mill. That was never on our radar, but now it's becoming, as we're looking at the development of the communities, it's becoming a lot more of a point of emphasis that we should focus on. When we're looking at, say, the Luray Mill strike in 1929, trying to locate in connection to the development areas that we can take people to show, like where Chief Adderholt was shot, where Ella Mae Wiggins was shot, where the police officer that was involved with it, Tom Gilbert, where his house was. All these different things are still standing or still there, but in partnership with the preservation part, has helped kind of guide towards us to be able to make sure we're talking about it, and that we're researching and interpreting it to our community.
I would say the role that we play is kind of an already established maybe community cultural institution that the community is familiar with. Nebraska Library's been there since 1923, and I think partnering as we have done with different events and workshops and things can guide people who already see us as a cultural institution and making them and be willing to share their family stories about the mill, and know that they're going to be critical and preserved and history. That's I think so far that was playing out. I do have a lot of people call me things, tell me things connected with the mill and its history and their history that maybe they wouldn't have thought of before as far as the mill history goes. So I think that's a way that we kind of help you anchor
Well, I think the challenge working with cultural organizations, and I've worked with some of their kind of extremes, and one is, and I really appreciate it, Rob used the word collecting and then backed up and said connecting. And cultural heritage organizations have in the past excelled at collecting. And I think that what's happening is that we're getting much better at what George said, creating a community. And so these organizations that are in the community, I think particularly in our partnership with things like the Community Histories Workshop, become places that can help to bring communities there. But not just the usual suspects. The challenging work is actually getting to the unusual suspects and engaging them. And beyond that, to those who are completely off the radar, where wonderful things can be discovered. And building a community around that, and then sharing in it, with it, which is connecting, not collecting. I think the other challenge that we have is creating a sustainable community around this. And what I mean by that is one that can kind of be perpetuated and move forward. And what we know about these communities, many organizations, I've worked with several, when you start to look at the demographics, you end up with a matrix that is, 10 different or 5 different major demographic criteria. And what that reminds us is that creating a sustainable community involves actually working within sub-communities. So youth is not necessarily the same thing as the elderly or the stakeholders. And so beginning with the end of how to share within specific parts of communities becomes something that the local organizations can help us. One other observation that I think for building sustainability, I really enjoyed as Evan has been looking forward to how to create some sustainability around this work. So for example, there are programmatic approaches. Music is one that you brilliantly, and as I'm watching it becomes more and more engaging, but actually using it as a way to build the community around some of what has been built environments, public art, bicycle paths, can be ways that can literally lead and connect people through history. Reading, and not just cell phone tours now, but kids using their phones with augmented reality, playing games. So I think that those become strategies to connect, engage, share through multiple parts of the community. I think that's community organizations on the ground.
I want to bring Elijah into this conversation and to get his collective
Sure.
thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about one of the projects we're working on, but I kind of want to build on Chaitre's comments, which I thought were really crucial. And sort of, and I hope everyone can hear me. I'm going to use my teacher voice. I can talk to 250 students, so I imagine you can probably hear me. I don't really want to stand up, but I suppose I will. When I think of these projects, in some ways, I'm not an archivist, I'm a public historian, but I think of these kinds of projects as being archival in the sense that I think of them as having a sort of material archive, and then what I think of as an archive of memory, to get to that kind of intangible role. And the thing that I'm perhaps most interested in, I really appreciate Rob and Jerry both, and Chaitre, I think, pulling back from an idea of collecting, of curating, even necessarily of interpreting, right? Which is what I think we think of as our domain very often. And I'm really interested in particular in how we can use these kinds of projects, and particularly how we can use digital tools, not to collect things, not to curate things, not even necessarily to do fully that kind of work of interpretation, but thinking of them as spurs for greater community involvement, for more programming, for more kinds of interaction. And I think that's the piece that's so easy to kind of get lost, right? We focus so often, and certainly focus a lot in my field, on collecting those things, right? And we don't think so much about well, what the hell is going to happen with them once they're collected, and how are they going to be a spur to additional kind of community involvement? So that's something that your Chaitra's comments and others have really prompted me to think about, and something that I'm thinking about a lot right now in a CHW affiliate project that I'm directing in Winsboro, South Carolina. I promise to do one more minute. Winsboro, like Gastonia, like other places, is famous for its cotton mills. Those of you who are folk music aficionados will know the Winsboro Cotton Mill Blues. But we're working on an adaptive reuse project there in an old school, a school that was founded in the late colonial period and went through several instantiations. First as a boarding school for the sort of upcountry elite, and then eventually a segregated public school. And in as much as the building is the kind of focus, the building is the thing that sort of brought us to this project, I very much think of the building as a kind of cipher. And as a way for these other kinds of groups, whose history is not materially in the building because they were excluded from attending the school, either on the basis of class and particularly, of course, on the basis of race over the past century. I think of the building as a kind of way to be a repository to allow us to think more about programming and about sort of programmatic solutions to thinking about this broader kind of community involvement. So that's really the sort of the impetus kind of for the work there, and what I'm sort of thinking about a lot now. And that's probably my 3 to 5 minutes.
Thank you. There's one person standing directly in front of me who we haven't heard from yet, and I really would like to get your thoughts a little bit more about what you can.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Ina, again, a PhD student, and I've come to this similar history, this textile history, thanks, through Danville, Virginia. I worked with a humanities organization over there.
That was bound to happen.
Big feet.
I'm really heard that. So my work with Virginia Humanities was to use history, community history, interview people, and use it as a to solve this economic woe that had happened after textiles left in the early 2000s. And Danville was the world's biggest tobacco market, they like to say. Of course, I've learned that everyone likes to say that. But anyways, I worked in this community, and there was a 600,000 square foot mill on the river, much like Revolution Mill, much like Lorraine Mill, and over 834 textile mill homes in this village near Danville. And I kept on hearing about this story, and the more people talked to me about this, I thought this story needs to be told into a broader audience. Why is it being told? No one knew where the archives were or the company, that sort of thing. But it was the catalyst for my work was actually the community. So with speaking with them and then working with a historical organization that had saved a lot of the papers of Dan River Mills, which was the textile company there. I was working with them, and that catalyzed sort of renewed interest in the area around the former textile mill village of Schoolfield. And it's much like Elijah said, that these buildings, they sat vacant and empty. I love what she said, Maggie, about if it's not the highest and best use if it's empty. And so, what we had to do was create value. And the only way to create value for these buildings was to revitalize the human story and the lived experience that happened within the walls of these vacant buildings. And in Danville, currently, still, the mill village housing is like $14,000. You can buy a whole bunch of them today for around $14,000, up to $50,000. They're way inexpensive, super affordable. But how do we create more value up there? How do we attract more developers to do this sort of work? So we're really working from the opposite direction. We're not saying how do developers, how can they influence community archiving or ignite that. It's really the community has been archiving this history. They have been stewarding it since the company left. So how do we work with them to match that with the built environment and with investment, real financial investment in these places that matches the human value. So, and that's actually what all these mills did. I mean, mill owners at the turn of the 20th century, they knew community would have to come first before they could create a profit. They had to build towns and villages, and they had to build community. And so that's what I think all these projects sound like that's happening again. And what I hope for Danville, and we're working on this, is that these similar projects can come up there. Virginia is a unique story to Virginia. North Carolina has a bunch of them. But, so thank you all for being inspirational for this sort of work. And yeah, so I hope that my dissertation efforts, I mean, no one's going to read that, but I hope that my interest in this history can help spark a little bit of what's going on here. Thank you.
We're just about out of time, but and I so appreciate this. Sarah, I'm so close to this project that I don't recognize its omission. But I would like Sarah to talk a little bit about a very different adaptive reuse project in a very different kind of archive.
I will keep this very brief, and delightfully so, because the past 4 people that have come before me have said so much of what I would already like to say. But from this perspective, from the reuse of these buildings, the way we're thinking of these buildings as ciphers, as catalysts, I also think that it's incredibly important. I don't know if anybody else has been watching the Chernobyl series on HBO, but they talk a lot about the zone of exclusion and places where you cannot go. And I really, inspired by that, I think that the kind of reuse of these buildings can become, in some ways, a zone of inclusion to both include people that have been excluded from these buildings and people that have more direct histories. And I think that their former histories as community catalysts can become, can be revitalized again. And especially in the work that we're doing around the redevelopment of the directly fixed hospital in Raleigh, which is a mental asylum, a former mental asylum, into a public park. What's really important is to realize, in trying to create this zone of inclusion, is to realize the myriad stories that we're talking about. The people that worked at the hospital, the people that were doctors at the hospital, the patients at the hospital, the variety of different ways that people were included in these narratives, these myriad narratives. And the thing is it's hard to say from a development perspective, but to really be able to be aware of the width and the breadth of what we're looking at when we're looking at these buildings. And that sometimes what we're repurposing them into doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just really being able to create an open, accessible space for people to do that kind of exploration. And accessibility is a huge, huge part of what we talk about when we talk about archives. Just because archives have been for so long this ivory tower of collected information that you have to fill out all these forms to get into. And so the idea of community archives, the idea of accessibility is very important. And I see the repurposing of these buildings and the recreation and revitalizing the community as a real spark to help us create those kind of inclusive communities that are going to be so important to how we move forward.
Making uses and light codes, all backgrounds and all experiences of music. The examples that I remember over the years, we did Brightleaf Square in the first 2 tobacco buildings that were given up by the tobacco industry. In an area where smoke was belching out, we smelled tobacco in the air continuously. And when we did Brightleaf, everybody said you're insane. So there's dirt, there's grit, there's crime. Why is it ever going to work? But Brightleaf's focus was create public spaces, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a event center, whether it's a courtyard between the 2 buildings and the event space, or whether it's just simply some retail, local craftsmen. So when we started Brightleaf, we said it's going to be mom and pop. No change, period. And that's what everybody held to. And it led to Brightleaf being known throughout a much bigger region. Now, part of that, students will come, parents will come to town for graduation, invite people to the place they go to, so they started spreading it to other states. But when we did Urban Mill on 9th Street as apartments, you got nowhere near the attention or the widespread appreciation of the public spaces like, or when we did Durham Poetry Mill, each term in senior apartments. I love going there because the residents love the community that's created there, but it doesn't bring in a much broader community because it's not open to more public and large group activities. So just American Tobacco does a good job. Music in the courtyard, back porch music, bringing in the radio station, bringing in all kinds of events and restaurants. Now, it's bordered by all part of the but it's the new uses that can get a broad group of people involved is when people really start feeling like they're at home. When you do 56 apartments to a small mill, those 56 apartments and others very appreciated, but a broader community doesn't.
Well, and the only thing I would add to that is one thing that I've been thinking about throughout this conversation, and again, sorry, I know we're over time, but what you see with these larger projects, what they all share is an educational component. I mean, the fact that they're working with Nash County with, the beer thing. My family, I basically grew up next to the Amos and Smith Hosiery Mill in Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, which is now a satellite of the Surrey Community College. You have educational opportunities in American Tobacco and in a variety of these different settings, and that's the thing. It's like there's retail, there's public space that you're talking about, but there are also these opportunities for people from the community to come and re-envision themselves in the same way that these buildings are being re-envisioned. I think that's an important aspect.
Here, 6 o'clock, going to have in space immediately next door a workshop on African American genealogy. And we'll have an opportunity to showcase some of the extraordinary work that has gone into developing the genealogy of the African American community here in Rocky Mountain, back to the slaves of the Battle of Families who first operated this mill beginning in 1818. Although she will not appreciate my doing so because she's such an incredibly modest and selfless person, it's an opportunity to showcase pretty extraordinary work in slave genealogy. So I won't call on you to speak for the I promise, but people do come back if you possibly can go that. I think it's going to be great. Any final thoughts?
Well, I'm just gonna say, the mill is open. If you haven't been, feel free to go into the space there, the atrium, or go around to the other side and go in the other entrance. Go around, bottle shops open if you're interested in beer. May or may not be open. It's Tuesday. I don't think they're open. Anyway, they might be there. Feel free to ask them for a taste. Restaurants are open if you're sticking around and you want to experience anything. All of it's open. So any door that doesn't open is not supposed to open. So you're safe, I think.
And can I just add that we perhaps haven't had as much conversation as because there was so much to get in, but I think one of the things we hope from this is that this will introduce a lot of people to one another and invite more conversations later. So as Evan says, the mill is open, and we're going to be here for the next hour, at least, while we're waiting for this next event. So please do stick around and look at the mill, which is wonderful, and talk with one another if you don't know each other.
Thank you all for